401k advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor2X.
Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Petronio, Managing Director with SRP. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Ross. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're on the show. You have one of my favorite sayings, which is, it's fine. You say that all the time. That's like a life saying for you. And in the middle of a pandemic, I think it's even more important. Can you tell us about why you just say, it's fine?
You know, I didn't even realize that I was saying it so much until my in-laws have pointed out if a child falls over and bumps their knee or something, you know, I think maybe part of it is that I'm on baby number 3 here, but first-time parents, you run over, you're very concerned, but in the end, like most things are fixable. Most things are not really an emergency. We tend to create our own urgency and our own emergencies. And so I think it's fine as kind of a reaction to say, let's just slow down, be in the moment, take a deep breath. We're going to be able to work through this. So I was saying that long before COVID, but it feels even more relevant now.
I love it. I had heard a joke years ago about parenting, and I'll do the short version so we can do it in 30 seconds. And that is, when your first child falls down, you freak out and call 911. Second child, same accident, you call the doctor, but you hold it together. Third one says it's going to be fine. Fourth child, when they come in, you say, quit bleeding on the carpet.
Sounds about right.
Let's go into an aha moment that you had. You recently posted an HBR article, Harvard Business Review, about integrators versus segmenters. And you really said that for you, that was an aha moment. So how about you talk about that?
Yeah, so I read that article, which really is saying that there are 2 different types of people when it comes to an approach to, I'm going to use the words work-life harmony, because work-life balance to me doesn't quite get at what I'm trying to accomplish. But maybe this is a kind of comes out in this delineation between having individuals, segmenters, who kind of maybe clock in and clock out of their day. And so when I'm at work, I'm fully at work. And when I'm at home, I'm fully at home. And that means I'm not even looking at my phone after 5 o'clock. And then there are other people who are integrators, where it seems to flow a little bit more like water. And there are times when the family demands kind of creep into the work hours. And there are times when the work creeps into family hours. And that's okay. Like, we just kind of flow. It's not balanced in the sense it's not 50-50, but that you're creating some kind of harmony in that ebb and flow. The aha moment for me was, I am definitely that integrator. And some people commented on that post on LinkedIn and said, well, you're posting at 7 a.m. on Saturday, and I'm reading LinkedIn at 7 a.m. on Saturday. So obviously we're both integrators. I have worked with, both types of people through my career. And, I have always kind of felt like, is there something wrong with me because I can't turn myself off? I can't help it, but sometimes wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Usually the baby's waking me up, but to wake up and have a thought about work and feel energized and want to wake up and start working on that. And so that article kind of said to me, no, it's okay. It's okay to be like this, and it's okay to be like that. And as long as you're finding what's going to work for you, you can make either work. One is not right and one is not wrong.
I think the challenge for the integrators, and I am definitely an integrator, the challenge is that when we have a thought or something about work pops into our mind, it's not just feeling guilty that happened. So it's endless. I have OneNote on my phone. I'm always putting notes about work or something else in there. I think the challenge is, instead of just putting in a note and going back to what you're doing, is all of a sudden being distracted, where you lose being present. So I think we have to get beyond the feeling guilty that you had a work thought. But if you want to jot something down, as long as you can get back to it, it's okay. But there's going to be a fine line there. I have no idea where that fine line is. Do you?
No, I wish I did. I mean, I do think that kind of pulling in that idea of it's fine has helped me. Like, it's fine. I don't need to deal with this right now, right? My children need my attention, or I need to have some quality time with my husband. So just because I have an idea at 9 o'clock at night doesn't mean I need to pursue that idea right now. I can leave that for tomorrow morning and it will be fine. Whether I send this idea to my team now at 9 p.m. or tomorrow, they're going to read it at the same time. So it's just kind of being comfortable with the fact that life is really fluid, and that feels more important right now.
I think harmony is a great word. I remember hearing years ago, instead of balance, of using the word centered. And I thought that was a much better word, because there is no 50-50. There is no balance per se. If you think of it from like a seesaw where one side equals the other, it's not going to be that way. And depending on what we're doing in life, that's going to ebb and flow over time. Sometimes we have to work a little more. Sometimes we can work a little less. I don't want to feel guilty because I have some structure of I have to have X amount of hours here and there. But I'm kind of with you. I love my Saturday mornings. My family sleeps in. Sleeping in for me isn't the same as them, I guess. So still gives me a couple hours in the morning on Saturday, and I love to catch up and do a brain dump. And I think that's okay, as long as by the time they're up, I'm now fully present with them. This was a post on LinkedIn that you had, and you've been doing a lot of posts, and they're intentional. They're not just, gee, this was interesting from HBR. I can tell you're putting a lot of thought into it and you're getting some engagement. Can you talk about how you're using social media and LinkedIn right now?
Yeah, I guess I kind of use it in a couple of different ways. One is a platform to share facts that I just find are interesting. So LinkedIn has become very visual, not just in terms of the algorithm wanting to favor either a graphic, an infographic, or a picture, but also in terms of video. So you're seeing more and more people putting out video content. So I do use it as a way to kind of share some of those things that I read a lot, and I come across interesting things that are related to retirement and sometimes tangent ways, but I want to find a platform to share that information, and it's not always relevant in a client meeting. So this is kind of a way to share that type of data that might cause you to pause and think and reflect on what that means in the bigger context of managing a retirement plan, for example. But I've also been using it and starting to focus more on video content. I find that I myself am more attracted to some of that video content. So it's creating short snippets, really digestible pieces. I know you've talked about that in some previous podcasts about trying to keep it short and concise, because our attention spans are growing ever shorter, and finding a way to share information that's really relevant to retirement plan fiduciaries or those that are managing retirement plans.
And I think it's a great way to not be so hyper-focused that everything I post must relate to what I do as an advisor, because that's not how my life works and it's not how my brain works. So to add other snippets in there, I think it's interesting. And having just video out there, even if it's just for 60 seconds, the public has voted. They like video. It's why they click on it. It's why the algorithms now push that forward. And I've had different guests talk about that, and you're mentioning it as well. So I know that we have to do that, and that's certainly something we'll be doing more in the future. Now, you've been posting on LinkedIn. You've got a couple different ways you address it. Where do you think you're going with it within a couple of years? Do you have other plans with video and so forth?
It's interesting because I was just thinking about that this morning. The industry is evolving so quickly. I'm working on a webcast next week on defined benefit pension plans, and part of that is thinking about some of these pension plans. When they were established, were using pencil and paper to calculate benefits and to house employee records. And you fast forward, and some plans haven't yet caught up with the times. Maybe they're using an Excel spreadsheet, but they're not really leveraging data. And I just think about how quickly the defined benefit space has changed and how you can leverage data to drive your decisions. And so social media is the same way. I mean, social media, it used to be if you just put out a post or you link to an article on a third-party site, that would generate a lot of engagement with your audience. And it's moved so quickly to video that I look at video and say, what's next? What's going to come after video? I don't know what that is today, but I think it is on us to continue to be mindful of how we can integrate some of those new technology advances in an authentic way, but into our own personal brands.
I think what's different between a website and the video is a website, you can have some content, some blogs up there, and it's enough to have people engage you. But if I'm going to go to someone's YouTube channel and I want to look at videos, 3 or 4 isn't going to be enough, because I'm going to compare it to other types of channels that I've seen where there may be 50 or 100 or 200. So maybe just sticking with what you do from an industry standpoint, it's not going to be enough, because that cumulative effect of information out there is just going to go on and on. So do you have any idea on different topics or how you might approach that, or you think you got to stay a little more focused?
I think the challenge is, I feel like there are so many topics to address that it's probably more challenging to prioritize. So I have a big focus on defined benefit right now, because I think there's big opportunities, it's a big pain point, but that will shift and change over time too. So it, to me, is a combination of having content that is, you've got evergreen content, things that you're creating that are going to be good for a very long period of time. So that might be something like explaining to a plan sponsor the difference between a simple IRA and a 401k, right? That conversation is going to remain relevant for a longer period of time. You have things that are ultra timely, like CARES Act, where we've got to get out and talk about this right now. And there's an expiration date. And then you have things that kind of themes that I think about that kind of come and go. And so I have kind of committed to a theme right now, and that'll change over time as the next theme emerges. But you still have to have the flexibility to kind of pepper in some of those more urgent, more timely messages. Like I just did one on lifetime income disclosure. Right now the DOL caught my attention on proxy voting. So, I think sometimes regulatory things may kind of cause you to pivot or interrupt whatever your theme is to bring something really timely to your audience.
I'd like to talk about the income disclosure. So I saw that post, and I remember as I was watching it, I was wondering, do people realize that this is the beginning of something much more significant? This isn't just a box that says, or a box I check and says, I have read these disclosures that I did not actually read, or I agreed to the terms that I did not actually read. This isn't just one more disclosure. This is a shift to where Joe DeNoyer was just interviewed here, and he had said that communicating to people on how to replace their paycheck is the key to it. And that's what they're thinking, because that's how they do their budgeting, and that's how their brain works. And these lifetime income disclosures, it's starting us down that road. Are you seeing that plan sponsors get how significant this is?
I think part of it the seed was planted by record keepers when they had started to change what participant landing pages look like. So it used to be that you would log in and you would see your balance in lights right at the top, right? And now it's evolved so that I think many record keepers, you're seeing, am I on track? As opposed to the number. And the number is still there because that's what people want to come in and see, but we're trying to rewire participants' brains to not think about it as the number, but rather, am I saving enough and am I on track and doing the right things? So I think that this is one more nudge in that direction for those who maybe aren't using the digital assets, that are looking at statements, maybe getting paper statements in the mail still. I think this helps to kind of nudge that conversation along. So I don't think that participants are quite there yet. I think many are still centered around the number and are really struggling with how to translate, okay, I've saved this number that looks like this is the largest asset that I have, maybe in total, or maybe behind my house. And so what does that really mean to me though? And I think that's where we're going to help participants to connect the dots. And ultimately, when you're more educated, you feel empowered to make decisions that are going to help further your financial security, your retirement plan.
When we post on LinkedIn with stories, I know we have to be careful and not think like, say, our children who post on Instagram and want to count the likes, because it isn't necessarily a popularity contest for the post. It's really more about engagement and what does it lead to. So just looking at views, it's not going to be enough. Do you have a way to gauge how you think a post was successful or the interaction that you have with people?
I think I reflect a lot. I do go back and do some analytics to see which posts were most engaging. Not only views, but likes, comments, the type of communication. And I think one of the challenges with social media is that, and I'll say content marketing in general, is that sometimes it can feel like, well, I've been doing this for a really long time, but I haven't seen any results. And I don't know what results, you've got to define what your results are. So if the results are, I've been posting on LinkedIn for a really long time. However, I haven't gotten a single piece of business that started because of a relationship on LinkedIn. I think you're thinking about it wrong. A lot of it for me has to do with establishing your personal brand. And, perhaps that's thought leadership, perhaps it's relevancy, connection to resources. But I have had, I picked up the phone. Remember when people used to pick up the phone and call people on a telephone?
I have. Yes.
I did that yesterday. And I talked to a CFO who said, I see all of your content. You're putting out really great things. Yet he has never once liked or commented so there's, to me, that's some validation of acknowledgement. And I use it more as a way to stay top of mind, to push out good content, and then to think about ways to recycle that content when the need arises. So if I've created a piece of content and I'm talking to somebody on a topic and I think, oh, I created a video, or, oh, I had a post that was related to that, I can kind of go back into the archive and find that and recycle it so that this content isn't content that is just a flash in the pan, one and done, but kind of has some longevity or some life to it.
You beat me to my next question. So as you were talking about that, I was thinking, you really should be able to repurpose a lot of this because it isn't one and done, and it does need to come back up. And some of it's very specific, some of it's evergreen, some of it's situational, but the value of marketing and generating content, whether you're curating somebody else's content or creating your own, is how can we repurpose it and how can we leverage it? So do you have a strategy for that at this point? You're planning something in the future? What are you going to do?
So I'll say with these quarterly themes, we're working on developing quarterly themes, and I can't predict the future. So I can't tell you what they all are, but I have some ideas. There are some things that are kind of hot right now, hot topics in our industry. And
come on, throw one out.
Like the DOL's ESG proposal, proxy voting. So these are proposed regs. I try not to get too excited about proposed regs, but proposed regs tell us where we're going. The DOL has been so busy this year that we're so busy trying to read, develop opinions, share those opinions, and just kind of project to our clients what we think might be coming next. So between finalized regs and proposed things, there's a lot going on in our industry right now. When we think about these themes, we're thinking about it in terms of, okay, how are we going to deliver that to our clients? So that might be in the form of some sort of a deliverable in a client meeting. And how can we repurpose that same content for social media, for video content, for maybe it's a white paper, a blog post. So there are so many different mediums that can be used, and each one needs to be viewed through a specific lens. So you have to understand, and I tried to reflect and learn. We did a series on well-being for the return to school, thinking about physical, emotional, social, and I handled the financial well-being component. And I reflected, we really took something that was for employees, for companies to deliver to their employees, and tried to repurpose some of that for social media. And I think that you sometimes have to view and think, okay, what we do for social media has to be different because what people are looking for on social media is different. So right now I'm kind of hot on this idea of taking a theme, envisioning what are all the different mediums that we can communicate this theme through, and then within each of those verticals kind of defining what do we want to create compared to that. So it's a lot of collaboration. I mean, we need a lot of team members to put their hands on this so we can get our best thought leadership together and execute it.
ESG is a great topic. I had Katrina Bell from Zuna scheduled for a podcast, and then she had to shift her schedule. It was supposed to happen a few weeks ago. And I was so bummed because she's really dialed into that topic. And I was looking forward to it because I don't think I'm really up to speed on a lot of what's going on there. I feel it's very general what I know. So having her on the calendar, I was so excited. And then she said, oh, I've got to bump to a few more weeks. I'm like, oh, it's real dying to know this stuff. Can I send you an email with 19 questions?
Right.
Just for my purposes, in case you have an hour to kill, would you mind answering that? But I think it's a great topic. Now you're mentioning we. So is this something that as SRP, you're dividing this up, or is this just with your office? How are you approaching that on either the office or firm level?
Definitely collaborating firm-wide. And so one thing that we have kind of established as part of our standard operating procedure is having peer review so that we can bring diverse thoughts together. And what we're creating is never just the view of one individual or one consultant, but rather a collection of our best ideas and maybe even at times competing ideas, making sure that we're showing both sides of the coin so that we can really facilitate good conversations or thoughtful conversations around particular topics, because there are, even within topics that feel like this might be a no-brainer, there are pros and cons to each side. So we just want to make sure that we're helping our plan sponsors to feel really educated so they can make the best decision for themselves.
One of the advantages of joining a group is that you can collaborate, and in this instance, it sounds more like divide and conquer, where bunch of people will take a single topic and then develop their content as well, where you're able to have your own content out there and receive exposure. So it isn't just something from the mothership. You have your own content, but then other advisors are doing the same thing. And I think that talks about the competitive advantage of a group versus individual. And I brought this up occasionally on the podcast that I think as time goes on, the benefits of joining certain groups are going to become more apparent. And fortunately, there's so many different business models out there. You don't have to sell your practice. You don't have to change your name. There's all different types of companies, all different models out there. Now, you've been on an independent side, and then you've been on a group side. What do you think are the biggest benefits of being part of a group?
I would say one of the biggest ones is thought leadership and the ability to grow and change our practice. So I'm doing work now that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought possible. So the scope of our practice has changed, the type of work that we're doing, for example, getting further into defined benefit and ESOP work. We just got hired to do a project for a pre-merger compliance audit. That's the type of work that I don't know I would have envisioned for ourselves even 5 years ago. So it has given us access to resources to expand the type of business that we're pursuing. So it's not just 401k or 403b. Beyond that, leverage with our clients and leverage with our vendors. We have scale and force. So if our clients have an issue, we can elevate that to a concierge level contact. So a great example, we had a vendor, we were having a service issue. It was a plan that was under $5 million, and we only had a couple plans with this provider. And so I felt frustrated because I said, like, we are legitimate retirement plan consultants. Like, this is all we do. I know what good service looks like, and this doesn't feel like good service right now. But I also know that when you pull up my name, you're only seeing 2 or 3 plans. So I don't look like anybody to you, right? So being able to leverage that scale has allowed our clients to get access to that higher level of service. That's been really critical. And then I can't skip out on just operational efficiency, which has come through process and procedures. SRP was really built on process and procedures. So integrating technology to make our lives easier as plan consultants. I think you and I have talked in the past about making sure that you're focused on what your core competencies are. What is the highest and best use of your talent? So things like finalizing meeting minutes, once we write the meeting minutes, I can hand them over to a team member who's going to follow a standardized process to make sure that we check all the boxes, and I have the comfort and confidence in knowing that that's happening, so that I can go out and focus on seeing people, which is really, I care so much more about seeing people than I do about, checking all the boxes on the form. So it allows us to really align everybody, right seat, right person.
I think over time, I've learned that the challenge for me, and I think for a lot of people, of understanding highest and best use is humility. It's not productivity. It's recognizing that, yes, I could do X, but there's people that are going to do it way better. I'm not a jack of all trades. Nobody's ever called me a Renaissance man, right? I know people like that. They're fascinating to me. I don't know how their brain works that way. I am so limited in the things that I really feel I have a grasp of. You've been in this business a while. I know you're a thinker. You've gone from smaller practice. And when you said someone may look at your, I almost burst out laughing, say, just see Lisa, with a couple plans there. And I'm thinking, no, Lisa, they know who you are. So I don't think they're going to say, oh, this is just someone with a couple plans. I'm going to go with you're flagged. And they actually know, but can't prove that. That's just what I'm going to go with for now. So over the last few years, is there something you could point to where you would say, I used to see it this way, and that seemed intuitive to me, but now, 2020, that's not exactly the best way to approach it, or that's not how it is. Do you have something that you can say you've shifted on over the last few years on how you see it?
One thing that's really changed has been my mindset. I started my career working in the micro plan space. So, we were like really excited when we got a plan. I remember $10 million. I was like falling off my chair. Okay. And over time, working up market, it's just been astounding to me that you can add several more zeros and the challenges are still the same. The only difference is maybe there's a couple extra participants that you need to address, but the challenges that micro plans face are the same as small plans, are the same as mid plans. And there are differences in the marketplace that you need to understand in order to serve those different solutions available to different plans of different sizes. But I think it was a real paradigm shift for me to understand that the work is not all that different. And I think sometimes, particularly for me, I am in my own way in terms of vision. It's almost like you can't think big enough. How can you set a dream or your goals big enough? That we talked about that, and I think there's opportunities to continue to grow. You just have to not be afraid to dream big enough for that. So don't hold yourself back.
You said something really important a little while ago, which is you're not sure what you're going to focus on next quarter, the quarter after, because you're not sure what's going to happen. Do you see that you course correct a lot, or do you think you have a little better vision 3 to 5 years out? How do you approach that with your mindset?
It's okay to let go of a goal. I feel like I'm so achievement oriented that once I've set that goal, I hold onto it so tightly. So I've been learning to just let go. It's okay to say that's not a goal of mine anymore. I think the only way that you can do that you can let go, is by knowing what you're really focusing on. So one book that I read recently that kind of helped me create this paradigm is Essentialism, the concept of doing more by doing less. And it also feeds into what we were just talking about, getting people into their highest and best use of talent. So the only way you can truly accomplish what you set forth as your top priorities is by being okay with letting go of some other things. And I hear that from other advisors and other consultants that they struggle with, even when it comes to building their team and growing so that they can serve more clients. They feel like no one can serve as good as I can. But if we take that mindset, then you're going to run into capacity. And so how can you empower others? How can you train and develop others so that you can ultimately, as a team, serve at a higher level and serve more people at that higher level?
Being able to grasp life happens, now what, is, I think, a wonderful blessing in life, because we set our plans and we set our goals, but that's just not how it plays out. I just read the stat, and I'm trying to pull the source. I think it was a Transamerica study where they said only 31% of people retired when they planned on retiring.
Yes.
So here we are helping people plan their retirement. Do you think we should let them know that 2 out of 3 people in the room, it's not going to come out, whatever they're looking for or whatever they think is going to happen? That's
Right.
just life. It doesn't lessen what we do. I would say it makes it more important, because most of those people are retiring sooner than they thought. They're retiring 5, 6, 7 years earlier than they thought. So that really becomes a challenge of life happens, now what? But I think having to let go of that is going to be a struggle for a lot of people out there. Maybe it's just because we're so performance based in our mind, and we have to achieve and we have to check the box and be productive and finish. And this is what I did. And we kind of overemphasize the outcome instead of the process. But, you mentioned focus and you've mentioned harmony, and you bring up these buzzwords that tell me that you're really drilled into what's going on right now. How do you unwind, or how do you help yourself not get overwhelmed in all that's going on right now?
So I have a morning routine that I will say this, and half of the people who listen to this will think I'm so in alignment and I do all the same things, or I know I should be doing it. And half the people are going to be like, oh, that fluffy stuff again. So I am into meditation. I need to exercise every morning. I journal. I vision and visualize what my day is going to look like. And certainly there are periods of time, like right now with a newborn and remote learning, where that doesn't always look the way that I want it to look every day. But the days that I don't have that standard routine, I don't feel like I am accomplishing in the same. I don't feel like grounded. I think you used the word grounded earlier. I don't feel as grounded as I do on the days when I have that opportunity. And so that's really important for me to maintain my own mental sanity, is having some of that routine. And meditation is really fascinating. I think that's something where you've got to learn to just acknowledge and let it go. It really feeds into a lot of what we've talked about today. This concept of it's fine. This concept of I can acknowledge something and put it aside for later. So meditation has helped me to do that. And I see that when I talk to other people who meditate, they kind of feel the same way. Like, how did I not discover this sooner? Because I think you become hooked. So that helps me. And then just trying to be present with my kids. My family is so important to me. So I can't believe how quickly they've grown already. And so I just try to accommodate. If the kids say, I want to go for a walk, I say, great. And if it means, like, kids are pretty, they're not really tied to time. So they say, I want to go for a walk. If I say it's 10 minutes to bedtime, we can only fit in once around, the neighborhood. They don't know that it was a 4-minute walk for the day, but they feel so happy that we've done that. And so I try to kind of accommodate and find ways to add joy in their lives through, and that makes me feel good. So I don't know, that's not really unwinding. It's more like getting out and running around after the kids, but.
Well, it's recharging batteries, and that allows you to do something that brings you joy. And
the key is you can't fly by the seat of your pants just because you can't see the future. You've got to set what that vision is and understand that the path to get there might change, but ultimately what you're seeking should be something that can remain constant. And I think about that a lot when I think about these businesses that have found irrelevance. So like a Blockbuster, I do hear that there is one Blockbuster remaining in the United States,
really?
and that you can rent it on an Airbnb, I think. But like keeping in mind that what we do can change. So you have to define what you're doing in broad enough terms that it allows flexibility for you to adapt.
Excellent. How about some closing thoughts?
It's fine. Everything is fine. If you're listening to this and thinking, I'm not quite sure where just take one step. And so if that one step is downloading the Headspace app, or if that one step is actually sitting down to write some sort of a business plan, whether that's a 90-day plan, a 12-month plan, or a 5-year plan, just start somewhere. Don't let this concept of I can't define the future hold you back from starting. So I have I guess maybe this is a closing thought. Some of my colleagues say done is better than perfect. And as a perfectionist, I really struggle with that. But I do think that there is something to be said for taking action, learning and adapting, and being flexible as you move forward.
So you recently received a really cool birthday gift from your husband. Can you share what that was?
It's a rocket book. So it's this notebook that comes with reusable paper. So you can wipe it off after you're done using it. I don't even know how to tell all these features because it's so exciting. But you get a special pen and you can write on it. The pen's erasable for anyone who makes errors, which is nobody, right? And if you write on it, you can put at the top within hashtags or pound signs, depending on what era you were born in. You can put your file name at the top and handwrite a note. And then at the bottom, there's all these different symbols. Can't really see them on the screen, but you check off one of those symbols and each of it corresponds. So it could upload to your OneDrive. It could upload to Google Drive or a Dropbox. It could send a text message, send that image as an email. And then there's text transcription. If you can write neatly enough, it can transcribe your notes. So I'm still learning all the features, but I am kind of obsessed with how this could change the game in terms of taking notes, meeting notes. Some people like to just take meeting notes, client meeting notes right on their computer. I still like writing things out. It feels like if I'm sitting behind my computer, my client thinks that I am answering emails instead of writing about them. So, and then it creates a great way that you can very efficiently, there's an app, you just snap the photo and it will send it to wherever you direct it to.
There was a company, LiveScribe. I wonder if this is the next iteration of LiveScribe, where they had a camera in the pen where it would read it, transcribe it, and send it to different places, and wasn't anywhere near as advanced as what you just described. So I am definitely going to get one of those. And I love the notes you wrote. Those were very cute. Some people are just listening to this as a podcast. So could you at least share what you wrote down and showed on the screen?
Yeah, the file name is Ross is the Man. And my actual note is Outcomes Podcast is the bomb, with a little bit of a firework, but I'm not much of a drawer. So it could just look like a spider too.
Love it. I'm going with the bomb. I love it. So thank you again for being on the show. It's been awesome.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.